What if the secret to building the ultimate stress-free morning routine isn't, found in some biohacker's crazy spreadsheet?
Right, or like some intense, unregulated ice bath protocol or whatever.
Exactly. What if it's actually hidden in a beginner-level English language textbook?
I love this concept because usually when we talk about optimizing our daily lives, there's this massive expectation of punishing complexity, you know?
Oh, 100%. It's like you need this highly regulated sleep schedule and, the sheer willpower of an Olympic athlete just to get out of bed.
Yeah, and the productivity gurus point to that and say, well, that is how you succeed, but it really creates a false binary for people.
It totally does.
The prevailing narrative out there suggests you either have a perfectly engineered, hyper-optimized morning, or, well, you were already failing it the day before you've even left the house. It's just an exhausting standard.
It really is exhausting.
Yeah.
And that's exactly why our deep dive today is so fascinating. We are not looking at a dense scientific journal today.
No, thankfully.
Right. Or a massive self-help manifesto. We are looking at a transcript from an English language learning show called A Cup of English.
Which is such a great source for this.
It really is. It's this casual, everyday conversation between two friends, Sarah and Daniel, and it's designed entirely to teach everyday vocabulary to non-native speakers.
Right.
But the thing is, by stripping language down to explain daily life to a learner, this lesson accidentally provides a brilliant psychological masterclass in the universal mechanics of human habits.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of instructional language design, honestly. When you're forced to break down a daily routine for a learner, you just can't hide behind jargon.
Oh, for sure. No lofty productivity concepts.
Exactly. You have to isolate the fundamental behaviors that actually make up a morning. And in doing so, this transcript strips away all that aspirational noise.
Yeah, it forces us to look at the incredibly basic psychological building blocks of how a day actually begins for the vast majority of human beings.
Which is usually pretty messy.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I realized something immediately when reading through Daniel and Sarah's conversation.
What was that?
Well, building a morning routine is exactly like learning a new language.
Oh, that's an interesting way to look at it.
Right, because it requires daily practice, it requires repetition, and most importantly, it requires a very specific vocabulary of actions to become fluent.
I see where you're going with this.
Yeah, like you don't just wake up fluent in a new language.
Right.
And you don't wake up perfectly fluent in a seamless morning routine either.
No, definitely not.
You have to learn the basic vocabulary of your morning first, starting with the very first action of the day.
Which is the transition from sleep to wakefulness,
Yeah.
literally the universal hurdle.
The wake-up negotiation.
Yeah.
So in the transcript, the host, Sarah, asks Daniel what time he usually wakes up.
Right.
And Daniel says his goal is to get up around 6:30 a.m. But then he immediately admits the reality he hits the snooze button at least twice before actually getting out of bed.
Which is so relatable.
Totally. And the lesson specifically highlights this as a key vocabulary phrase to learn to hit the snooze button. And Sarah completely validates him, saying, "You and me both. That snooze button is dangerous."
It's a remarkably honest starting point for a lesson. From a behavioral psychology perspective, hitting the snooze button is a classic example of present bias.
Present bias.
Yeah, so the person who set the alarm the night before had really high aspirations.
Right? Always. Nighttime me is so ambitious.
Exactly. But the groggy person waking up at 6:30 a.m. is dealing with sleep inertia. The brain hasn't fully cleared out the adenosine that's the chemical that makes us feel sleepy.
Okay, right.
So your present self renegotiates the contract for just, 15 more minutes of rest.
It's a daily groggy negotiation with a cognitively impaired version of yourself.
That is a perfect way to put it.
But once he finally does get up, Daniel outlines his immediate physical actions. He drinks a big glass of water, noting that it, quote, wakes up your body after a long night.
Which is biologically very true.
Yeah. And then he makes coffee. The lesson actually uses this exact moment to teach another piece of core vocabulary, the verb to function.
Ah, yes. The crucial verb.
Daniel literally says, "I can't function without my morning coffee." And Sarah agrees, calling herself completely useless before her first cup. So why do you think the source pairs the literal hydration of water with the emotional crutch of coffee when defining the word function?
Well, notice how the transcript bridges the biological and the psychological there. It pairs the literal hydration of water, which, biologically jumpstarts the organs, with the psychological crutch of coffee to define what it really means to function.
Oh, wow. Right.
By anchoring the definition of this verb to the need for caffeine, the lesson normalizes the struggle. It doesn't define functioning as jumping out of bed ready to conquer the world.
Like those productivity influencers.
Exactly. It defines it through an emotional baseline, a universally understood human struggle.
It's taking so much pressure off the morning. It's essentially telling you that struggling to wake up, needing that snooze button, and feeling useless before your coffee isn't some moral failure.
Right, or a lack of discipline. It is just the baseline human experience. And that validation is critical for habit formation. If you start your morning feeling like you've already failed because you hit snooze, well, that negative emotion taints the rest of the routine.
It totally ruins the vibe of the whole morning.
It does. The lesson is teaching the listener that transitioning from asleep to awake is inherently messy, and requiring a specific set of tools like water and coffee is just part of the standard operating procedure.
That baseline of functioning is really just the starting line, though. Because once Daniel is awake and caffeinated, his focus shifts to energy management.
Right, getting through the day.
The conversation moves straight into his breakfast habits. And here's where we see him intentionally shifting his behavior. He admits to Sarah that he used to skip breakfast all the time.
A lot of people do.
Yeah, but about a year ago, he changed that habit. Now, he always eats something, usually eggs or oats, because it makes a massive difference to his energy levels.
The dietary shift is definitely interesting, but what makes this section so impactful is the grammatical lesson embedded right in the middle of it.
Yes, here's where it gets really interesting. The used to structure.
Right.
The transcript actually pauses the conversation to give a listening tip, teaching the structure used to, plus a verb for talking about past habits that we just don't do anymore. Like, I used to skip breakfast.
It's a really specific linguistic marker.
It's funny, right? We treat used to as just a basic grammar rule for language learners. But, I mean, psychologically, it feels like it's how we draw a definitive boundary between our past bad habits and our current improved selves. Would you say it's almost like the ultimate linguistic marker of personal evolution?
To build on that, yes, it's actually a vital tool for cognitive reframing. In the psychology of habit change, there's a concept known as identity-based habit.
Identity-based, okay.
The idea is that true behavior change isn't just about the action itself, it's about shifting your belief about who you are.
Oh, I like that.
When Daniel says, I used to skip breakfast, he's doing a lot more than just conjugating a verb in the past tense. He is engaging in self-signaling.
He's verbally distancing himself from his past behavior.
Precisely. He is telling himself and Sarah that the person who skipped breakfast and suffered from low energy levels just no longer exists. That was a past iteration.
The old Daniel.
Right. The present iteration is a person who eats oats and prioritizes energy. So by using that specific grammatical structure, the habit change is framed not as an ongoing, miserable daily struggle to force food down, but as a completed evolutionary step.
It's the grammar of personal evolution. It makes you want to look at your own life and see how many used to phrases you can collect.
It really does.
Like, I used to doom scroll in bed, or I used to rush out the door in a panic. It completely changes the narrative from what you are failing to do to what you have successfully overcome.
And that positive framing provides the momentum required for the next, well, arguably most difficult phase of any morning routine.
Oh, the physical exertion.
Exactly.
Which brings up the absolute most resistant vocabulary in the entire transcript. Sarah asks Daniel if he works out in the mornings.
The dreaded question.
Right. And Daniel gives what might be the most refreshing, realistic approach to exercise I have ever heard in discussions about morning routines. He simply says, sometimes.
I love that. It shatters the illusion of the unbroken streak. We are so conditioned to believe that consistency means doing the exact same high-intensity action every single day without fail.
Right. Daniel explains that when he has the motivation, he goes for a 20-minute jog. But some days, he admits, he just can't drag himself out of the house.
And who hasn't felt that?
Oh, totally. But on those low-energy days, he doesn't just go back to sleep or consider the morning ruined. He does a quick stretch instead.
Yep.
And Sarah immediately affirms this by saying, honestly, any movement is better than none, right? The vocabulary phrase the lesson highlights here is so visceral, too, to drag yourself.
It perfectly captures the heavy physical reluctance of low motivation. But let's look at the behavioral mechanics of what Daniel is actually doing with his jog versus stretch strategy. He is utilizing a minimum viable habit.
Like a sliding scale of acceptable actions.
Yes.
It's not a rigid pass or fail test of like jog for 20 minutes or you're lazy. It adjusts based entirely on his daily motivation level. So how does this flexibility prevent the entire routine from falling apart?
Well, when we adopt an all or nothing mindset like jogging or nothing, the moment we face a day where we have to literally drag ourselves out of bed, we usually choose nothing.
Yeah, the bed is just too comfortable.
Right. And when we choose nothing, the neural pathway of the habit starts to decay. By swapping a 20-minute jog for a 2-minute stretch, Daniel is preserving the slot of the habit.
Oh, he's keeping the appointment with himself. The intensity drops, but the behavioral loop remains intact.
Exactly. The cue and the routine happen, even if the routine is miniaturized. Furthermore, the fact that the lesson deliberately teaches the phrase to drag yourself without attaching any shame or judgment to it is incredibly important.
Yeah, Sarah doesn't make him feel bad about it at all.
No, she supports it. It shows you, the listener, that acknowledging a complete lack of motivation isn't a sign of weakness. It's an expected statistical reality of maintaining any long-term behavior. If you have to drag yourself to the floor to do a single stretch, well, you are still successfully fulfilling the vocabulary of your morning routine.
It's forgiving fitness. I love
Ah.
that. It allows you to just be human.
Yeah.
But here is the part of the transcript that really made me pause. Despite all this flexibility, despite hitting the snooze button, taking time to drink coffee, and sometimes only doing a quick stretch, Daniel mentions that his whole routine takes about an hour and a half.
Which is a significant amount of time.
For someone who isn't trying to be a hyper-optimized CEO, 90 minutes sounds like a massive chunk of the morning. Yet, he tells Sarah he doesn't feel rushed at all. He likes to take it slowly, and mornings are actually his favorite part of the day.
That completely upends the traditional narrative that mornings are inherently stressful and rushed. Sarah is genuinely surprised by his answer.
I think we all are. Most people feel like they are constantly racing against the clock. So how does Daniel manage an hour-and-a-half routine while maintaining this incredibly calm demeanor?
It's a great question.
He reveals his secret, and it's entirely based on actions taken completely outside of the morning itself, the night before.
The logistical preparation.
Yeah, he details his specific evening steps. He lays out his clothes, he packs his bag, and he plans his to-do list for the next day.
Very practical.
His ultimate goal for this preparation is explicitly stated in the lesson too, so he doesn't have to think too much, and he can just enjoy his coffee in peace. Yeah. I like to think of this night before prep as a literal form of time travel. It's his past self deliberately reaching forward in time to do favors for his future self, you know? Tuesday night, Daniel's absorbing the stress, so Wednesday morning, Daniel doesn't have to.
I really like that time travel analogy. It gets right to the heart of cognitive load management.
It really does challenge the assumption that morning routines are about doing more, doesn't it? Like, it suggests that a successful morning routine is actually about thinking less.
It absolutely is, because every single decision takes energy.
Even the small ones.
Right, especially the small ones. It's a phenomenon called decision fatigue. The brain uses the exact same pool of cognitive energy to make decisions, regardless of whether that decision is, what project should I tackle first at work, or which blue shirt should I wear today?
Wow, so picking a shirt drains the same battery as a work decision.
Essentially, yes. When you wake up, your prefrontal cortex, the decision-making center of the brain, is still booting up. Forcing it to make a barrage of micro-decisions while you are groggy drains the battery before you've even left the house.
So by laying out the clothes and writing the to-do list the night before, he's basically outsourcing those decisions to a version of his brain that is fully awake and capable.
He is systematically eliminating morning friction. The lesson highlights two key phrases here to lay out, which is the logistical action of arranging clothes and in peace, which is the resulting emotional state of being calm and undisturbed.
I love how those are connected.
They are directly connected. The physical action directly creates the emotional state. By removing the friction of choice, he creates an empty, unburdened space in his morning. That empty space is what allows him to spend 90 minutes not rushing, but simply existing.
It's profound because it shifts the focus from discipline to design. He doesn't need superhuman willpower at 6:30 a.m. because his environment is already designed to guide him through the motions. We've gone from the messy, groggy negotiation of the snooze button to achieving a state of actual peace simply by shifting when the logistical decisions are made.
And that journey brings us right back to the overarching purpose of the transcript itself. The host of the show, Sarah, wraps up the conversation by reminding her audience that the best way to improve your English is to use it every single day, exactly like a morning routine.
The repetition is the point. You can't just learn the vocabulary once and expect to be fluent. You have to actually speak it.
You do.
And to facilitate that, the lesson provides a speaking practice section at the end. It asks the audience to pause and answer specific prompts out loud based on everything they just learned.
Which forces the transition from passive consumption to active application. It's one thing to understand Daniel's routine, it's another to audit your own. The prompts ask, what time do you usually wake up? What is the first thing you do in the morning? And utilizing that grammar structure of personal evolution, what is one morning habit you used to have but don't have now?
So for you listening to us right now, whether you're commuting, walking the dog, or just sitting at your desk, mentally pause for a second. Answer those exact prompts for yourself.
It's a great exercise.
Look closely at how your own morning measures up against the psychological mechanics we've just unpacked. Do you have a sliding scale of minimum viable habits for the days when your motivation is completely depleted?
Or are you utilizing that time travel preparation the night before so your prefrontal cortex can actually boot up in peace?
Yeah. Or are you waking up and immediately facing a barrage of tiny, exhausting decisions?
It is an opportunity to look at the raw data of your daily life without the heavy burden of judgment. You are simply observing the fundamental verbs and nouns of your morning and seeing how effectively they function together.
Exactly. And that leads me to one final thought to leave you with today. If our mornings are built from these repeated actions that we do every single day, much like practicing a language until it becomes second nature. What is the vocabulary of your own morning routine, silently communicating to the world about who you are and what you value?
A routine is just a reflection of priorities, ultimately.
It really is. Something to think about tomorrow morning when that alarm goes off. Until next time, keep examining those daily habits.